Okay, so thank you for taking part in today's Security Survey Report and Solution webinar. I'm Heather Mason, MBDA President. It's nice to see you. And we've teamed up with Brian Hawkins of Fixture Lab. And we wanted to get a better understanding of the issues facing retailers this past year and form some ideas for solutions forward. We know that this is such an important conversation to have, so I'm super thankful to Brian for joining forces with us on this. And we also have Rochelle Scouten. She's the development director at the MBDA here. She has just some tech stuff she'll go through before we keep going.
Yeah, I'm continuing to let people in, so that's great. But as we go through the conversation, if you have questions or comments, we can use the chat function, or if there's we pause at a subject, feel free to just unmute and be part of the conversation. We love that kind of a thing. And then we'll also have a big conversation and Q&A at the end. So jump in if you have a question, but also if you want to wait till the end, that's fine too.
Thanks, Rochelle. Yeah, we want to keep this super authentic. So anything you want to throw at Brian, he's here, and we want him to be able to present the survey results as well as answer any questions you might have. So yeah, the star guest, Brian Hawkins, owner of Fixture Lab. If you have not heard of Fixture Lab, be sure to check them out online. Rochelle will place the link to Fixture Lab's online in the chat function, so you can check that out. But they are a leader in proven fixture design and merchandising solutions for bicycle retailers. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a nice introduction. I like that.
That's a nice one. So the last 15 months, many conversations have been around break-ins and security, and what other retailers are doing, how we can move forward and protect ourselves better. So Brian, Rochelle, and I were having a conversation, and we're like, let's do something. So we put our heads together. Brian spent a lot of time working on a survey that we sent out to retailers. We had over 100 retailers report back, and the information, although I haven't been privy to it all yet, so I'm excited to hear what Brian has to say. But hopefully will give us some really critical feedback that we can offer some solutions. So I think I'm just going to turn it over to you, Brian, to just take this away. All right.
Hey, Rachel, I just tried to share my screen, but it says I'm locked off from doing that. So if you give me the permission, I'm good. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not good yet. Oh, there I am. All righty. All right. Does that look like I can't see anybody now because this is filling my screen? Is that showing up well for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to talk a million miles an hour because there's just a bunch of stuff that I want to share with you here. I'm so excited because this topic has been, at the edge of what we do at Fixture Lab for a long time, and it's becoming more and more and more a part of what we need to get done. Because we design stores and try to create attractive environments, we have to work around anything that needs to be done for security inside of stores. So if the store that we're looking at there on the right-hand side needs security gates, I need to know how to work around that so that we can get bikes in the front window if that's what's called for. And so I end up dealing with stores that are in the process of doing things about security just by the nature of the job that we're doing, where they're rebuilding a store and it's going to make sense to do the security measures as we're doing that. So this has been something that I wanted to dig into further for a long time, and I'm super excited about what's here. That said, I'm not an expert. I just play one in roundtable discussions. What I've done is I've gone out and I've collected as much information as I can about the things that we're talking about. But, there's people that do this for a living that are not me, and they have much more information, and we'll talk about those very people. But what I want to do is get the ball rolling for you. So if there's any resources that you need, if there's questions, or if there's, ideas, or even if it just brings up a vulnerability that your store has, then that's all good. All right, so my goals in the presentation here in this part of it are to help reveal the sobering reality of the problem, kind of raise our awareness. I want to shed new light on possible weak spots in your own defenses by showing you examples. I want to share the empowering information about what we've collected that indicates that you can actually do something to prevent these break-ins. I want to share resources so that no matter what you need and no matter what place you need to get it, you have at least a little bit of a head start. And at the end of the day, we want to stop at least one thief in his tracks. Like, this is worth it if we save one shop the heartache of having to deal with that kind of stuff. So I'm going to dig into our survey results first, and then I'm going to dig into resources that you guys shared, that the whole audience shared via the survey, and then other research that we did, just kind of poking around to uncover good things, good resources for you guys. This is how the responses came in to the survey. And I'm sharing this with you. There was 91 responses, either complete survey responses or partials to it. And those represented 139 stores. Those are important numbers because when we look at things further down the line in this deck, we just got to keep in mind that we're not talking to thousands of retailers here. And I'll tell you what I mean when we get there. The representation around the country, well, California had the most responses by far. You know, the rest of the responses are kind of spread around the country. There wasn't like one area that monopolized all the responses or anything like that. So it is a fairly good split there. When we asked how many stores each of the respondees had, the most popular response was one store. So 77% of the people that responded have one store. 11% of the people that responded have two. 7% have 3 stores. 2% have 6. 2% have 7, and 1%, which I think is one person. One person that responded has more than 10 stores. So I'm going to do this little game here. I'm going to show you the phrase. I can't move my, the little menu at the top of my screen is right on top of the top line of copy for me, and I can't move it because I'm in the wrong mode here. But I'm going to show you the sentence, and then I want you guys just to think about what you expect the percentage to be before I reveal it. So after our break-ins are a much larger problem currently than they were in the past. Just imagine in your head what you expect that percentage to be. 58.1% of you said that it's a much larger problem currently than it was in the past. The way that I'm doing this, by the way, is the reason why it says agree or strongly agree is I've added the responses for agree or strongly agree together to create the 58.1%. Preventing after hours break-ins is a huge priority for me. I think this one's interesting because when I started my very first job ever, when I was at a bike shop in the 80s, I don't think that after hours break-ins were on their radar screen at all. Like, you just didn't have to worry about that. But now 78.5% of the people that responded said that it's a huge priority. And then 44.3% said they strongly agree. So this is something that the respondees felt very strong about. I believe there's an organized effort out there to steal bikes. What do you think that is? 60.5% of the people. These are significant numbers. Like, that's a pretty strong reaction to a sentence like that. So it's, shops are thinking about this stuff. After hours, I can't read it. more than our, the after hours theft is costing us more than the theft during business hours for us. This one surprised me. I thought it would be stronger than that. And 27.9 is significant, but I think could mean two things. It means that Theft during business hours is, you know, almost an equal kind of a problem for our shops. Or I don't know how to quite answer that, but I'm just kind of reporting back what the response was there. I've had to beef up our store security measures in the last 2 years. 63.5%, and 34% strongly agree. So again, that's significant. This one surprised me a little bit. I said I get very little support from local law enforcement on this issue, and you can see the responses are pretty well distributed across the options that we gave you. Some agree, some disagree, you know, strongly or not. It's pretty evenly split. And I think this speaks to the fact that, you know, it just depends. Some police departments are more active on this stuff. Some are less active. Sometimes you can do things about the problem that you have, and sometimes you can't. I think it's just kind of all over the board. To me, what's significant is everybody didn't say, I never get cooperation from law enforcement. You know, it's not lopsided one way or the other. We gave you these options about protecting your store, and we wanted to know what you thought the most effective ways to protect your store were. So we gave you professionally monitored alarm system, unmonitored alarm system, door window bars, folding security gates, film treatments for the glass, security guard, security cameras, locks on the bikes inside the store. So those are the options we gave you, and I'm going to give you the top 4 answers. I mean, there's no huge shocker here, but the number 1 answer that you gave back was professionally monitored alarm. So that was what you guys responded and said that is the most effective. Second most was security cameras, no huge surprise. Locks on the bikes in the store, and door and window bars, and folding and rolling gates actually tied. It was the exact same number of responses for those. So they were both at 51.7. And then if I give you the bottom 3 answers, it's kind of interesting. The unmonitored alarm system ranks in there, no surprise. Then security cameras and professionally monitored alarm shows up too. This just means that nearly everybody responded positively or negatively, essentially, to security cameras and professionally monitored alarm, and they kind of picked their sides. So there were a lot of responses to those 2 items, and they made the most answers, or the most selected list and the least selected list. How many times has your store been broken into after hours in the last 18 months? The good news here is that 55 of the responses said 0 times in the last 18 months. That's great that the majority answered that way. The problem is that that's just barely the majority. And the other responses are kind of interesting. 16 of the responses, 16 of the stores said they'd been broken into 2 times. 11 said 1 time. 7 said 3 times. 3 said 4 times. And 1 shop had been broken into more than 5 times. At that point, I think I'm just like putting bricks in the windows or something and not letting anybody in. But this is pretty significant. Our 93 stores have been broken into a total of 82 times. The reason why this number of the total stores varies from the first number that I showed you in terms of how many people responded, it's because we didn't require everybody to answer every question in the survey to collect the information. So some people didn't respond to some questions. So I can only tell you of the people that responded, 93 stores responded to this, and 82 break-ins had occurred based on that. That's a lot. So a very significant problem. And I think that this is, you know, this is some of the really juicy stuff that I wanted to get to with the survey. Super interesting. The average value of the product taken in the break-ins in the peep from the responses in our survey. This is the average. So obviously the higher ones and lower ones, but the average was $22,333. So, and that's only the product. Of course, the damage to the store is on top of that, which can easily equal the cost of the product that's been taken in the store. So that's super significant to me. The total value. Now, this is why I said, keep in mind that we're only talking to 90 or so stores, or 90 responses and maybe 130 stores total. The total value that was reported for all of those break-ins came to $804,000. It's a huge number for such a small sample of retailers across the country. If you had cameras in the store, did they capture the theft? I just thought this would be interesting to ask, and it came in about what I thought, because most people have cameras these days, but 27% said that they did capture it. 9% or 9 people said they didn't. I think what this says is the cameras alone obviously aren't going to solve your problem. The camera doesn't work as a super deterrent, but it's part of the mix that you got to add in there. So you should have them, and they're not going to solve your problem, but proceed with them. I want to talk about the themes. Like, you reported back the basic stories of the way that your store or stores had been broken into. So these are the themes. The whole thing went very quickly. This was one of the biggest themes. People that told the story of their store being broken into usually said something about it going really quickly. It was a smash and grab through the front glass. Next time it's going to take longer than 3 seconds. They got 2 bikes out the door in less than 1 minute, broke in and stole 3 bikes in less than a minute. So that's just an ongoing theme. No huge shocker. I mean, we all know that this is the thing that you'd kind of expect to hear. I'm just, bringing up the fact that it did get represented. This video shows this thing happening very quickly. And this is compelling to watch. So I'm going to hit play on the video. I don't know how this is going to play over Zoom. I hope it goes well, but so these guys have just come through the front door there. They've brought in a grinder, cutting the locks off of the bikes there. Grab the iPad. And they're out. So what hits me, and we're going to talk about this more, is how organized that effort was and how quick it went, right? Next theme is that the thieves are going to extreme lengths these days. Comments like, I've been doing this a long time, it's getting very difficult. They'll go to any lengths nowadays. They cut the burglar bars and gained access through the broken glass of the front door. We were broke into once. We had bars on the windows. So instead, they cut a hole in the rear wall of the store. They took the cash registers. 1 bike is a getaway vehicle. The U-Haul through the front of the store. And then this last one at the bottom here. Thief broke into the dance studio next door that had no security and cut a hole through the shared wall to get into their shop. That's like crazy stuff. And this is one of those things where, like, looking at your store with a different set of eyes towards these break-ins might be super useful. Like, is there an unprotected space next to you that could potentially leave you vulnerable to this same thing happening? I don't know. The other theme is that when stores put in security measures, additional ones, they seemed to help. So you can read the comments here, but they basically say that, like, The window film kept the windows in place when someone tried to shoot them out. Expensive to replace, but kept them out. Basically, this is encouragement that if you take some measures, you're going to have some success. And if you add things together, you're going to have even more success. These are the security measures that were in place in your stores. To the people that responded to the survey, these were the things that were in place when those break-ins happened. No shocker here, because it's kind of, you know, the usual suspects in terms of things that people will do to their store to protect it. It's interesting that these were in place when the break-in happened, and it still happened. I think one of the things that I'm learning as we go through this is it's going to be a matter of doing a number of these items at the same time to try to make the dent in the thieves being able to get done what they want to get done in your store. We let people write in answers to things that were in place when the break-in happened. And the biggest one that was written in was the locking the bikes inside the space was one of the security measures that they had taken when they were broken into. So this little video is very interesting to me. Come on, play. There we go. Little brick through the window there. Dude comes through, shops for the bike he wants. And there's a cable lock on that bike. And he leaves without the bike. So even though, you know, we just saw at the same store another attack, they cut through the lock. In this case, he didn't make it through that lock. So in this case, the small cable lock that was on that thing protected the bike and saved the day. So it's not a matter of those never working, and it definitely is worth doing, because you never know. You know, you add this to some other measures that you might have in the store, and you might just save yourself. So in summary, what we're looking at through the responses to the survey, I would say it's like, holy cow, what can we do? I'm going to say, don't worry, because we got you covered here. I have the next part of this presentation is a bunch of really good resources for you, information for you. And then at the very end, what I have is a document that I can share that really kicks you off in the right direction for tracking down the exact resources that you need. Because I'm going to talk through concepts in protecting your store, and I'm going to talk about some products, but very generally. And then our resource list is going to give you some specific companies or places to go to for any of the things that we're talking about. So you'll like that, and I'll show it to you at the end. Okay, so this is where you really start to get your money's worth out of this presentation, because the next slide has a $10 phrase that you can use from now on for free. Thanks to the MBDA, you're going to be able to use this. Target hardening. It's something that came up when I was interviewing people for this. Target hardening's what it's all about. And what that means is it's a process of making your store harder to get into, harder to rip off. Your store is the target, and you want to make it harder. Target hardening. So let's use that in a sentence. The sentence is, yeah, we had a perp hit us with a 459 last month, and I'm all like, hell no, we're going to do some target hardening right now. So that's how you use that. Please feel free to use that whenever you want to. And that's what this whole presentation is about, really, is about making your shop less attractive. On those lines, interesting note from Jay Allard from 529 Garage, where you register bikes. He says the big thing that he tells everybody is the bad guys are more organized than the good guys. We saw the organized effort of the thieves coming through the front, cutting through the lock, and getting out in just seconds. That's a very organized effort. Another thing he said in the second video where the cable lock stopped the guy, you know how he's looking at the bikes? He was getting specific. Jay Allard said that their experience is that the people breaking into the store are literally shopping for a specific bike because it's been pre-sold by someone down the line from him. So they might say that we need this specific mountain bike from this specific company, and you need to get that for us. And he goes out and shops the stores and then comes in that night and grabs them. So that's what that guy was likely doing. So the organized effort really helps you. It just gives a different focus to how you look at your store. You shouldn't be thinking about what losers the perpetrators are and how they don't know what they're doing as much as you know what you're doing. You should really give them credit for being very organized, very strategic, and up your game to match that. All right. Another very valuable slide coming up, probably the most valuable slide in the whole thing. So I'm calling it a $100 acronym. And if you don't get anything else from this whole thing, this is worth the price of admission. This is the acronym, SEPTED. It's pronounced like that, SEPTED. And this is a law enforcement term, or it's related to law enforcement. I heard it from people talking about law enforcement, and it stands for crime prevention through environmental design. Okay, so this is a discipline. This is a thing that people are trained in heavily that they can consult you on. So you should really, I believe, put this on your to-do list right now. Call your local police department and ask if they have someone or a department that can help you do a SEPTED evaluation. And you might have to explain it for a second to whoever answers the phone. But if you ask that, they're going to know what you're talking about, and they're going to tell you yes or no. And if they say no, they're going to be able to tell you where to turn for it. If you talk to your law enforcement, your local law enforcement, and they do have the resources, what they're going to do likely is send a police officer or whoever runs that area of what they do to your store for free and help you walk through the store, physically evaluate the vulnerabilities in your store and the strengths in your store in terms of break-in ability and that kind of thing. So everything that we're talking about here is going to be stuff that they're going to cover on that walkthrough, and they're going to do it for you for free. If your police department doesn't offer that, then you can hire someone, and you could just Google the term and you'll be able to track down people in your area that have some expertise in that. So this is, I didn't know this was even a thing before I started doing the research for this, but I think that that's a huge, very valuable nugget of information. On those lines, preventing theft through environmental design. This is straight from that. When I was talking to Officer Trujillo at the Boulder Police Department, he said, here's a great example. Which strategy is more effective at preventing theft? One, obscure the windows of the store so that the thieves can't look in and shop at night. Or two, take everything off of the glass and add extra lights so everyone can see everything in the store at night. You're probably, because of the context of what we're talking about here, you're going to get that number two is the right answer. He said, so often people are inclined to cover stuff up to protect it when it's exactly the opposite thing that you should do. You should uncover things and make it more visible. So anything you can do to draw attention and to show the world what's going on inside your store at night, that's going to help you. Now I'm going to move into some physical things that we can do at the store level in a few different areas, and just cover these things briefly. And then, like I said, there's these resources inside that document that we're providing to you. So security gates, there's all kinds of options all over the board, but I wanted to just quickly cover a couple things. options that you're going to run into so that you enter the marketplace for those, if you need to, a little bit more informed. So there's lots of options. There's lots of levels of security, obviously, lots of prices. And the proper solution really depends on your store. And it can be the shape of the store, or it could be the landlord requiring something or requiring you not to have something. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the scissor gate style gates in front of the store. You can see them in place here on the top image on the right, and they've been retracted on the bottom image on the right. So they usually, you know, they kind of tuck out of the way pretty nicely so they're not in the way as you're doing business during the day. The scissor gate style thing is usually the least expensive option that you're going to get when it comes to gates. Usually attaches to the walls on either side of a door or on either side of a window. And that's the way that they're held up versus being slid on a track, which is the next thing we're going to look at. But this makes it pretty darn easy, flexible, easy to install. And they're a good option to add some security to your store. They're not the most secure option to add to the store. And they're usually limited to about 8 feet high. So, you know, you can see the transom windows up here on the upper right. Those aren't protected by those gates. This store is making the assessment that those high windows aren't as vulnerable as the low windows, and they're protecting the low ones, which makes sense. Another thing about scissor gates is they can go around some curves. So if you have a curved space somehow or another, like you have something you've got to get around in the front of the store, because these don't have a track, they don't have to be absolutely straight. You can accomplish that with the scissor gate. Next one is the, I jumped ahead of myself here. I thought this would be interesting because it's not the most secure gate in the world. I thought we wanted to find an example of it actually working against who you want it to work against. So this car is trying to back through that front door of the store there, and the gate's protecting the store. It's doing its job. Like, they're backing into it. The guy gets out of the car and then pushes on the gate some more because he just can't believe that he's been stopped by this little scissor gate. So, you know, just like that cable lock before, gosh, okay, now the damage to their building is significant. There's no question about that, but they didn't get into the store. So this simple inexpensive scissor gate did accomplish the job that it was set out to do. Have to mention, Uline makes gates like this, and they're very inexpensive, really. The input that I got from the security experts out there is no big shocker that you're going to get what you pay for in terms of security. So, you know, don't spend a few $100s on a Uline gate and expect it to be the most secure thing you can possibly do. However, you know, it's certainly going to slow someone down. So it might be worth considering if you're on a tight budget and you still need some security. It's a good first place to start. Next one's the folding gates, like we've all seen so many times. They slide on a track, kind of like a curtain. So there's obviously some installation, some necessity to have the space organized the right way internally so that you can actually pull that off. Sometimes these can be more secure than the scissor style. A lot of times they are. They come in all kinds of different shapes and colors and see-through and all that. And the big advantage to this style of gate is it definitely can go around corners, and it can definitely go around curves. So again, if the front of your store is an interesting shape, like the one in the upper right there, you can accomplish it. Also can be built to go higher than the scissor style ones. And then we have the roll-up gates. This is usually the most expensive option, mostly because you have to support the gate from above. And it just tends to be more expensive than those other options. It can be motorized. So if you want that to happen, it's really great. If you want it to be completely out of the way when it's open, You know, it's up above and it's not getting in the way of any merchandising, anything like that. So that's great. However, the rolling gate obviously can't go around a corner. So if you have that curved space or if you need a corner, it's going to be tougher to deploy this. I put together this fake storefront with these measurements on it, just so that we could get an idea of what these solutions would cost. And we called a few places and got them to give us some numbers. And these, you know, it's really tough because every market's going to vary. The solutions that they give you are going to vary. Installation costs are going to vary. So it's tough, but I want to give you a relative idea. The input that we got was scissor style gates for this space to cover those windows and the doors there would be 3,500 plus, you know, add on to that whatever options you need or whatever strength you need. The U line I added together would be only 1,100. The folding gate style protection would probably be 5,000 and beyond. And then rolling gates would probably be more like 8. So that just gives you a relative idea of what we're talking about for those gates. Next up is security bars. No surprise. You know, these are as, you know, there's as many options here as you can think of. Some are self, you know, things you can install yourself. Some have to be custom built for you. Some look great, some look terrible. Some can look like the ones in the middle there that kind of feel like the panes of glass, the mullions in the windows, you know, so there's lots of different options. Definitely worth thinking about. The one big limiting factor that I hear most often on this style thing is because it's permanently there, sometimes landlords or historical districts or code or something like that gets in the way of you installing these. Another slam dunk thing that everybody who is even remotely subject to someone smashing into the front of their store is a bollard. They're really straightforward. Again, the landlord or, you know, the city or whoever might get in the way of you putting these in, but if you have the ability, definitely worth it because they're not expensive and they're going to save the day when it comes to someone backing a truck into the back of the, or into the front of the store, front or back. You can get lots and lots of different options and colors, and you can get removable ones. So you can take them out when you don't want them there, or you can get ones that like retract down into the ground. They could be motorized. So they could be architectural looking, so they could match the building, or they could have lights built in. So there's all kinds of options there. Just wanted you guys to know the standard height is 38 inches above ground and about 22 below, but of course your conditions might vary and they might recommend something different. You probably won't install these yourself because it's going to require some special equipment and expertise. You want to space them no more than 5 feet apart so that no vehicle can get between them. And in our quick research, it looks like between $150 and $800 per bollard is what you should be budgeting. You know, again, obviously the more secure, the more expensive, or the fancier the design, the more expensive that's going to be. Think about this too. These can be bollards. I mean, effectively bollards. The large rock, the big boulder in front of the store, or the arrangement of boulders in front of the store that prevent any vehicle from backing into it is a really, you know, it's a perfect deterrent. Furniture out front that's permanent, that's very strong, and that's permanently attached can also work the same way. This might not stop everything, but it's going to slow them down again, and that's a lot of the name of the game when we're protecting the store. Window films. By the way, there's many times in this where I know that you guys know what I'm talking about, but I'm covering everything as if you need to know everything just because somebody might not know what we're talking about yet. So window films. The films that we're talking about were invented to prevent glass from shattering in the event of an explosion or something, so that glass isn't flying everywhere and hurting people. So it does prevent the glass from coming out of the window. It doesn't stop it, but it prevents it, slows it down. And it doesn't prevent the glass from being broken, just keeps it in the pane. And it doesn't stop the thief for very long, but it's way better than doing nothing at all. There are also self-installation versions of this, like you can, and you'll see on the list, there's stuff on Amazon that you can, or Uline that you can get that allows you to install your own protective film onto the glass. So with all those options, you know, you might be spending $1 to $20 per square foot to protect the window. Some of the films have UV protection, which is definitely worth it to protect your products inside the windows. You can even do tinting. One of the security experts that I talked to in terms of glass protection said, you got to know that window films can be defeated pretty easily by heating the corner of the film itself on the outside of the store, and then it starts to peel up, and then you can peel the whole film off the window. So, you know, obviously it can be defeated, but that still takes time, and that's going to slow people down. I'm going to show you the thing that's in the lower right-hand corner here. I'm going to show you a video very soon that covers that. So I'm not going to talk about that quite yet. Next option that's more durable than the window film is a product like RIOT Glass makes or DEFENSELITE. And I'm sure there are others out there, but the two that I looked at and talked to were these. And basically what they're doing is they're putting a 1/4 inch layer of polycarbonate installed on the outside of the glass, inside the frame. So honestly, you can't even hardly tell that there's anything there. It's invisible. If anything, it just looks like an extra pane of glass out there. And it does prevent the glass from being broken and any penetration through the glass. So it actually makes it, they say 250 times stronger than the glass, which is huge. Definitely more expensive because the product itself is more expensive, and there's a much more detailed and expert installation that needs to take place. But it does a lot to protect. So I'm going to show you this little video here. Oh my gosh.
Exactly what you're looking for. Security window.
I hope that the video or the audio. So the guy on the right is trying to break through the thick covering that we were just talking about, and the guy on the left is breaking through the window film version of it. And I just thought it was a great video that shows you exactly what the difference between those products is. Eventually, by shooting at the window and by hitting it with the crowbar, he gets the glass to break behind the polycarbonate, but it takes a lot, and he still isn't through that window. The window film, with a number of hits and the shooting that they did at these windows, he's definitely able to get through that. Both definitely slowed down the guys trying to get into the store. The one on the right is a much more significant deterrent though. Like, that is going to really protect that window a ton better. And there's no bad side in terms of the aesthetics, which I really like. Next thing I want to talk about is registering. You guys honestly probably know more about this than I do because it's in your sphere, but I would be remiss if I didn't include it. 529 Garage and or Bike Index, they work as DMV for bikes. So it gives the police or anybody the ability to kind of run the plates for a stolen bike or to see if a bike is stolen. And it's amazingly effective, actually. They're both working hard to make these programs integrate into your POS system. So it's just part of the sales process. It's part of you getting product out onto your floor. And they both of these places recommended to me that you guys register the bike, completely register the bike in advance of any sale happening, but during the sale of the bike, that you help the customer to complete the process to get their bike 100% registered with their information. Then, man, they're just completely protected. If you do the registration before the sale of the bike, then it protects it for the long term, so that if that bike's uncovered someplace and it has been registered with these guys, it can be tracked down back to the store. And, you know, who wouldn't like to be able to call up the customer that didn't even register their bike and say, we found your stolen bike we're going to have it at the store, Tuesday, come back and get it. That would be an awesome call to be able to make. And along with that, they both said, make sure you've got to promote the fact that these bikes are protected that way. So it works as a deterrent inside the store. Thieves have to know that these are protected, because this is some of the only stuff that you can do to the bike itself that's going to make it less attractive. Doesn't fix everything, but it makes it less attractive. And it's amazing the difference that registering the bikes has made. Like, this is just an example here in Vancouver. When 529 Garage was launched, they decreased the thefts of the bike. Now, this isn't retail store thefts. This is just consumer bike theft. But they changed the curve there in a huge way. 30% less bikes were stolen after this program was rolled out and it was promoted heavily and so many bikes were registered. So that ruins the downline for bikes that are stolen. If they're registered and if it's going to be hard to move those, then it's hard for them to sell those bikes. And if they can't sell those bikes, then those people who would be buying stolen bikes are going to need a bike still and be coming into a store. So it just is definitely worth thinking about. Jay Allard, again, from 529 Garage, had this idea and I hadn't thought of it or heard of it, so I thought I'd include it. He suggested, and he doesn't own a shop, but he suggested using two-way cameras that have mics and speakers in them, which is like super easy to get these days. You're going to know, as the person who set up those cameras, you're going to know when there's action inside the store, and you're going to be able to talk. Granted, might be too noisy. Maybe you can figure out an amplification system, but you're going to be able to talk essentially to the people doing the deed and tell them that the police are on their way, tell them that you're on your way, tell them that the bikes are all registered and that there's no use in taking them. I mean, it's not going to change the course of their action all the time, but it might cause some pause and be a good part of the solution there. Verify R. And I didn't talk to them personally, so I don't know if they say verify R or verifier. Maybe you know, but it's super interesting technology. It's kind of like the RFID chip that that you might be familiar with, that could be placed on things to track them and stuff. NFC allows, with a smartphone, for you to be able to pull up information on that product. And it's going on all kinds of products, not just bikes, but it might be a backpack or shoe or something like that. But it can pull up all kinds of information that's associated with that very specific product, which can be super useful. So it can be used in coordination with a bike index, something like that. So it basically pops up, and the information that's associated with that product is then shared with, it just basically connects all the dots so that there's no question where that bike came from or whether it's stolen or not. So it's a super interesting technology. I don't know, maybe you guys know a whole lot about this, and it's just new to me, but I think that's I think that's a little bit of the future there. Selecta DNA. It's a little bit out there, but hey, if I'm getting $22,000 stolen from me, I'm going to take any measures I possibly can. It's a super interesting product. There's, you see the swab there doing something to that phone. Basically, one of the products that they make, you can swab onto your products, which might be tools in the store. It could be that iPad that was stolen. It could be the bikes. It's a clear, odorless, it essentially doesn't appear to be there until you look at it with UV light, and then it's identified, and they actually build in DNA into this stuff. So it's positively identifiable and unarguable about who that stuff belongs to. Super interesting. That's what we're looking at in the middle section of this slide here. That's the asset marking. They also offer intruder sprays. So they make this little system that you install over the doorway, over windows, and it literally sprays the people that have broken into the store. As they're leaving, it sprays them with this clear solution that's not harmful, but it does mark them. It's like the old, you know, the bank bag that explodes on the thief, and you can identify them. This is a clear substance that's definitely trackable to that store specifically. And when you turn on a UV light, it's all over them and they can't get it off. So, I mean, how satisfying would that be to be able to identify someone and absolutely positively know that they were the person that was in that store, no matter what they, you know, what they had on or how the things happened. Just thought that was super interesting. Then, of course, we have the homegrown solutions, where people are developing their own. Might be like in the upper left-hand corner, it might be some more attractive looking bars for the windows that look like the mullions again. Could be like in the middle there where you're U-locking bikes to a built-in piece of merchandising inside the store. That makes a ton of sense. Could be this elaborate one down the lower left where I don't know how that system works at night, but there was a description in the survey about how this works at night, and this structure holds up a larger system at night that prevents people from getting through the glass. The thing on the far right is some window bars that I was helping a retailer think through. This is the way I presented it to them, so it's not a finished thought yet, but basically we're turning the bars into a bike display in the window. So we're actually hanging the bike hooks on the bars that are protecting the front glass, making it really tough to get through there with a bike, accomplishing two things at the same time, nice and efficient. You know, so combine that with maybe some RIOT glass on the outside, and you've got dramatically more security for that store. Okay, so we're getting close to the end here of what I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to offer up, there's this list of resources that you see scrolling past on the bottom here. And it includes things that we've talked about here, plus other stuff that we haven't really talked about. Those things with the check marks next to them, those are the categories that we're covering inside this resource list. So it's a great list. The QR code on the right-hand side, you could scan that with your phone right now, and you would have that whole list that includes a cycling retailer target hardening idea list. At the very end of that document, you'll see a little list, and it looks like it's just a checklist. And it's simply like, I imagine someone pulling this up on their phone at the store and saying, all right, let's look at the store with some fresh eyes and let's see if we are doing these things to help secure our environment. It's not every option that's possible out there, but it covers a lot of options, and it might just spark an idea about something that you should do. The URL is over here on the left-hand side, and Alex or Heather, you could stick that into the chat. So you got that to download. This is a really great resource. And what I'm hoping you'll do is, if you're watching what we're doing here, either live or in the future, and you have your own resources that you would like to share with the group so that we can help change the curve for all the shops around the country, share that with us. My contact information is at the bottom of that list. Real easy to email that off. We'll update the Google the list so that it gets better and better throughout time. I think it'll be a really valuable place. If I'm a new shop owner and I'm just looking to connect with some options for securing my store, this is a spectacular place to start. Okay, last thoughts. One big one is, don't evaluate your store security from the perspective of a shop owner who's honest. Look at it as a thief looking for a payday. And think organized. Like, think, man, if I was trying to get into this store, I have no morals now. If I'm trying to break into this store and rip us off, how am I going to do it? How would I do it? I'm a smart guy. I'm going to try and get in this way, and look at it that way instead of instead of talking yourself out of what thieves are going to be up for doing. Light up the store and open up the store, like make it very visible at night, and you'll have more success. Call your police department and ask for that SEPTA evaluation. That alone could be huge for you, because they're going to talk about your specific situation and what you can do, even based on the current trends of how people are breaking into things in your area. The lists that we have here aren't comprehensive, but please share stuff and we'll include it into that doc. And then if nothing else, hopefully this whole thing raises your awareness to some things that might be vulnerable in your environment, and it will help you get started towards solutions. So let's get out there and harden those targets. And I want to thank you for letting me do this. And I know we're going to take questions here. If you have any comments, questions, ideas, whatever, that QR code is there again if you need it. And then, you've got all the information that you need.
Brian, wow, what a tremendous presentation. I'm still thinking about those numbers early on from the survey, from the small portion of retailers that did respond. The numbers are huge. The information here is super valuable. I did try to place the link in the chat, but I do think I got it wrong. So if anyone goes, it takes you to some weird, don't follow what I put in. I don't know where I sent everyone. Sorry about that. Does anyone have any questions for Brian? I'm sure there's some ideas out there. James.
Thanks. That was very thorough, and I learned some things I didn't know. We were hit once by thieves disconnecting our power simply by taking the meter out and by cutting our communication lines. So you may want to also look outside of your shop at your incoming utilities, how to secure your power box. And what we did was put everything behind steel bars on the outside with the utility company's blessing. And I covered the incoming phone and internet where they were not accessible. And then I installed some fake ones, which I labeled internet and phone on the outside that don't do anything. And we've had no problem since then. But
well, that's a great suggestion. And that's exactly the kind of thing I imagine they would come up with in one of those SEPTA evaluations. Like, here's what people do. They disconnect the power, they disconnect the internet. And if you mislead them, that's a perfect solution. That's great.
Quick question. You didn't touch on bike theft during bike demos. Is that something that the industry is seeing as a real problem, or is it something that we shouldn't worry about?
I don't have any empirical evidence. Like, all I have is anecdotes that I've heard where, obviously, just like the test ride problem, the problem of people taking a bike out for a test ride and taking it, the demos are the same thing. So I don't have any specifics to talk about there.
I guess my question is we worry about it all the time, and there are extremes on test rides. People are asking for credit cards and driver's license and car keys. And I just wonder, on a global, is that something that the industry really sees as a problem, or is it just something that you just manage by having a salesperson outside with them?
I mean, I've heard it a lot of times. I don't know, Heather, maybe you've heard something else.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard it come up. I wouldn't say it's a prevailing theme that I've heard since having conversations with retailers since February. In the past, I've heard retailers, they take the credit card, the ID, maybe the keys, but you don't know, they could be giving you a key to some car that's not even there. So
yeah.
I think you just always have to err on the side of most caution there.
Okay, I just wondered if what the industry has been saying, because we don't let anybody go out and test ride without a person being with them. But once they go 150 feet away and they could be out of sight, we keep their kids as collateral or something. But I just wondered how severe of a problem it is.
I don't know if that would work in my case, because I might just let you have the kids and then.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can have mine.
I'm not giving you any. I'm not giving you guys any ideas. All right.
Maybe there's another roundtable in this later on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just thought I'd ask because the detail was incredible. A lot of data presented. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
William, in our situation, we have a paved test track, which is unique because in the South, land is cheap. But when an employee takes a customer to the test track, we always take 2 bikes. The customer thinks we're bringing them another option, but that second bike is also a chase bike.
Yep.
Smart.
Yep. And beware of the thieves that team up with a buddy. Like I've seen them distract the person that's supposed to be going out on the ride with the test rider. The second person number 2 will distract the store employee while person number 1 is riding around. And then at the opportune moment, person that's out riding around takes off. And when the shop employee turns around, the other guy's gone too. So you just got to have a different set of eyes when these things are going on. It sucks, but it's true.
Thank you very much.
Hey, James Gerardin, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks, Brian.
All right, well, thank you, Brian. This will be available for members and non-members alike in our resource area. Or Rochelle, where else will we be sharing it? Maybe online or?
Yeah, we'll put it online in our emails that go out, and it'll be on our website.
Cool. Seriously, add to that Google, or email me the stuff to add to that Google list if anything else comes up, because those were perfect suggestions, and I want to keep on building that resource because it's perfect for you guys for anybody to take advantage of in the future.
Brian, this was incredible. I can't thank you enough. This is a fantastic data at a very timely time. So really appreciate you and looking forward to the Big Gear Show. You'll be joining us there for a seminar, hopefully. So.
Yeah, baby.
Yay. Well, thank everyone for
Thanks for the
taking time
chance.
out of their day to join us. And I really
great to see you
appreciate
guys.
you being here.
Take
Have
care.
a great afternoon.